Skellige and Cintra shall stand ever together.
Eist Tuirseach. In over more than 50 witch lore videos, I've only talked about something that was truly from Skellige once, and that was Svalbard. So it would seem time to return to the Isles with a character from the books who managed to become king of both Skellige and Cintra. Eist was born into Clan Tuirseach, the Skellige clan that ruled over the islands of Skellige. He had two siblings that we know of, Bran and an unnamed sister. Eist was known to be an excellent warrior, and while his brother eventually became king, Eist became the Jarl of Skellige, which meant that he was the commander of the military force. Besides his skill as a warrior, he also gained fame as a sailor. He was able to maneuver his longship through the narrowest fjords of Skellige in complete darkness. He could navigate through the fiercest storms, and he drove Nilfgaardian ships twice the size of his own ship onto the rocks of the Skellige shores. However, there came a day when everything changed for him. To ensure that his ship would stay on course, he would often observe the stars closely. Yet one night, while lying on the deck of his longship, he saw something in the stars. Something that changed him from a good-humoured, carefree adventurer into a grim and somber man. Whenever he was asked what he saw, he replied, "The future." Eist never was the same as the other islanders. He had dark hair, his skin was aged and weathered by the sun. His appearance was seen to parallel a certain longing. As he was often gazing into the distance, his thoughts were lost far beyond Skellige's shores. Even though he changed in his behavior, he was still a renowned and famous warrior. This resulted in the son of his sister to look up to him as a mentor. This son was Krach an Kreet. In 1252, Eist took Krach to Cintra, where Krach would ask for Paveta's hand in marriage, to unite both Skellige and Cintra. "It's a great honor," said Calanthe, a little flushed, "to welcome such an excellent knight as Eist Tuirseach of Skellige to my castle again. If it weren't for your well-known disdain for marriage, I'd be delighted to think that you are here to court my Paveta. Has loneliness got the better of you after all, sir?" "Often enough, Calanthe," replied the dark-faced islander, raising his glistening eyes to the queen. "But my life is too dangerous for me to contemplate a lasting union. If it weren't for that, Paveta is still a young girl, an unopened bud, but I can see." "See what?" "The apple doesn't fall far from the tree," smiled Eist Tuirseach, flashing his white teeth. "Suffice it to look at you, my queen, to know how beautiful the princess will be when she reaches the age at which a woman can please a warrior. In the meantime, it is the young men who ought to court her, such as our King Bran's nephew here, Krach an Kreet, who travelled here for exactly that purpose." This wasn't the first time Calanthe and Eist had met. Calanthe by this time had been queen of Cintra for 20 years. Eist himself also was in an important role in the Isles, which made it so that they had met each other before. It seems clear that they had mutual respect for each other, and as the festivities went on, Eist made everyone toast to Calanthe, and he had a bard play a song about Calanthe's first battle as well. He seemed to want Calanthe to know how much he respected her. Calanthe gave many smiles to the people in the room. However, only Eist received what could be considered to possibly be a real smile. Once Paveta entered the room, and she sat down next to Eist, Calanthe said the following: "And what do you say, Geralt? The girl has taken after her mother. It's even a shame to waste her on that red-haired lout, Krach. The only hope is that the pup might grow into something with Eist Tuirseach's class. It's the same blood, after all." Are you listening, Geralt? Cintra has to form an alliance with Skellige, because of the interest the state demands it. My daughter has to marry the right person. Not too long after this, the mood in the room changed, once the Urchin of Erlenwald came in to demand Pavetta's hand. As the Urchin had the right to marry her, thanks to him saving Rukner of Ebbing's life, who was the husband of Calanthe, and father of Pavetta, who had died in about 1246. On his deathbed, he revealed to Calanthe that he made a promise that she wasn't happy with. However, she didn't intend to keep this promise, and therefore hired Geralt to deal with the matter, as this promise was the law of surprise, and she didn't want to mess with destiny. The uproar at the table continues as Eist Tuirseach turned to the queen. Calanthe, he said calmly, is what he says true? And if it is, the queen muttered through her teeth, biting her lips, picking at the green sash on her shoulder. So what? If what he says is true, Eist frowned, then the promise will have to be kept. Is that so? Or am I to understand, the islander asked grimly, that you treat all promises this lightly, including those which have etched themselves so deeply in my memory? Geralt, who had never expected to see Calanthe blush deeply, with tears in her eyes, trembling lips, was surprised. Eist, whispered the queen, this is different. Is it really? From this part on, we can start seeing hints that there's more between them. Between the queen and Eist, for some time at least. They have made promises to each other. Promises that seemed to mean a lot to both Calanthe and Eist. Eist had to silence Krach a number of times and tried to keep everyone calm. He tried to get Calanthe to stop setting people against each other. However, she wasn't happy when he tried to stop her behavior. Once everything went wrong, Eist jumped into action. He smashed a chair against the ground, and with the sharpened pieces he charged to defend the Urchin. However, amidst all the fighting, Pavetta started her monotonous and vibrating cry. All around the room were dishes, chairs and tables flying around. The throne soon followed, and Calanthe slid onto the floor. Eist threw himself onto her to protect her using his own body. Luckily for everyone in the room, Geralt and Mousak, Hermione, managed to calm Pavetta. Calanthe, my beloved, my Calanthe, Eist Tuirseach said in the pause between kisses. The queen opened her eyes, but didn't try to free herself from his embrace. Eist, people are watching, she said. Let them watch.
Oh, my beauteous Calanthe.
Once everything got cleared up and discussed, it became Dany who would get Pavetta's hand in marriage. However, the goal to unite Skellige and Cintra didn't seem to have gone as planned. Calanthe still had an idea how to complete her goals. But you can't count on having the throne just yet. I intend to reign a little longer besides the new king of Cintra. The noble Eist Tuirseach of Skellige has made me an interesting proposition. Calanthe? Yes, Eist, I accept. I've never before listened to a confession of love while lying on the floor amidst fragments of my own throne, but how did you put it, Dany? This is all that counts, and I don't advise anyone to stand in the way of my happiness. And you, what you're staring at, I'm not as old as you think. Soon after, Calanthe and Eist got married and united Skellige and Cintra in the process. Besides Eist becoming king of Cintra, he also became king of Skellige, as Bran, his brother, gave him the throne. Although king, Eist never ruled. He didn't want to oppose his wife, and being a king kind of bored him. Therefore, he handed over all the power to Calanthe. Calanthe, however, was stuffing herself with elixirs and medicaments, dragging her husband to the bedroom both day and night. They were happy together. However, they never had any children. This was often blamed on Calanthe's age, who at the time was about 35 to 40 in the period while she was married to Eist. The real reason why they didn't have children had more to do with Eist. After the events with Profeta, when he had seen the power of the Elder Blood, he never wished to father a child out of fear of what would happen if that amount of power would mix with the hot temper that was typical for Skelligers. Although he didn't have any children himself, he would often spend time telling Ciri tales of his adventures at sea, about the creatures he had seen, like narwhals and sea serpents, and the lands he had found. However, once Profeta and Dunny had sailed out into the Setna Abyss and vanished, Eist went to sea to search for them. If there were any bodies to be found, there was any trace of them. He returned with a stony, pale face, followed by silence. Even though he was happy with Calanthe, he missed his life on the sea, and still had that feeling that changed him so many years ago. The vision of what he saw in the stars. In July 1263, his fear turned into reality. Nilfgaard invaded Cintra. At the southern border, near the Mardinal steppes, Cintra fought against the invading forces of Nilfgaard. The battle, known as the Battle of Mardinal, lasted for 1 day. Both Eist and Calanthe were present at battle and partook in the fighting. From dawn till dusk they fought, until Nilfgaard decimated the Cintrian army. Among the dead was Eist Tuirseach. His body was retrieved by Skelligers from the battlefield. He was buried in a traditional stone tomb, next to an empty symbolic coffin for his wife, whose body was never found. Following Eist's death, his brother Bran became king of Skellige once again. Krach, who was Jarl, swore along with every person on the Isles they would avenge their fallen king, resulting in the countless amounts of raids that the Skelligers have fought against Nilfgaard at sea. Eist was a warrior, an explorer, a king, and the husband to Calanthe. The influence he had on people can still be felt for years, as he was among the best men Skellige has ever had. That was it for Eist Tuirseach. Eist is an often overlooked character, mainly because he appears in one short story and gets mentioned a few more times in the books. Also, with Calanthe, the reason I say Calanthe instead of Calanthe comes down to when I was looking into this video, most of the things I could find. There was one voice line for Eist where he said Calanthe. And even though if you put Calanthe in English in Google Translate and listen to it, it says Calanthe. The Polish version says Calanthe. So I'm going with Calanthe since that seems like it's the intended version of the name. Eist was one of the few Skelligers who managed to not let himself be led by his temper, but instead was calm. And in Ciri's words, Eist was clever. Till the next video. Bye.